And here we go.
Sports!
I listen to you guys all the time.
It's awesome.
I'm in the mood for one of your classic anecdotes.
Give yourselves a round of applause. All right, that's enough.
Hey guys, there is someone I want you to meet.
Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun on Off the Hook Sports. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net.
We're all part of the same team here.
Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Loaded up on a Monday. Welcome to the program as we've got a ton to tackle, and we're going to do it on this very show. Thank you for joining us each and every weekday at 10 a.m. or wherever you podcast. We appreciate that. T. Scott Jones with Banks and Jones will join us a little bit later to talk about the new rules and legislation that's going to be around NIL now that you have the scenario in which colleges can pay athletes, but you can still get NIL. So I don't know that the wild, wild west has changed all that much. We'll dive into that with T. Scott Jones a little bit later in the program. Also, Tennessee with a new commitment. That's good news for the Vols. But again, not one that's probably going to blow your skirt up or your cap off, whichever term you want to use. So here we go. Caleb Calhoun, how are you? Hope you had a fantastic weekend and a great Father's Day.
I did. I am good. And how are you, Dave?
I'm well. Let's go ahead and get rolling here. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. We remind you, if you're on board already, we would love for you to be a part of the program by hitting that like button and the subscribe button if you haven't already. About to top 8,000 subscribers, so we're excited about that. And also, we want your comments. We love the feedback. We love what you have to say. We go to specific comments, display them on the screen if you're watching on one of our video platforms. So let's dive into it. Today's tough question. For those that don't know, Nico Iamaleava, if you were under a rock, is with UCLA now, no longer with the University of Tennessee. That was right alongside, I would say, Tennessee's 2022 season as a whole, the most exciting thing that happened under Josh Heupel and during his tenure. Would you agree with that, Caleb?
Yes, totally. 100%.
He's a close second, almost. I think some people would have even said had Tennessee lost another game in 2022 but gotten Nico at the time, they would have been okay with that. And I know that sounds crazy. But now suddenly Tennessee's quarterback position is in a way different predicament. And that is Tennessee has to find a quarterback. Is it Jake Merklinger, who we thought was going to be the incumbent starter? Is it Joey Aguilar, who now most people think will be the starter, considering the fact that he comes from UCLA with a little bit more experience? Or could it potentially be George McIntyre? I think obviously he would be the long shot unless he's just a phenom. He did come in January, so maybe there's that possibility. But I think we both think this is a two-horse race. So my question is, let's start with Aguilar. Joey Aguilar is the starter, and things go fine. I don't think you and I are predicting a 12-0 season. Making the college football playoff, I think, would be a major success given the issues at quarterback. But if you go with Joey Aguilar, and even if things work out, now I'm going to take off the table that either of these guys are the next Heath Shuler or Peyton Manning. Okay, if they're that's great. But even Peyton Manning as a freshman wasn't fantastic, and Heath Shuler didn't play. So first-year starters in this day and age of college football, it's a struggle. So let's say they're good, but not elite. Obviously, this argument is moot, or mute, as they say in Maynardville, if they come out and they are Mike Vick superstar type players that change the course of a team in their first year as a starter. We don't think that's going to happen. I also don't think they'll either fall flat on their face. So we're dealing somewhere, I believe, between a C and B performance. If that's the case, and giving that as the backdrop, how do you think fans will perceive Joey Aguilar, and in particular, Josh Heupel, if Aguilar's good, serviceable, but not great?
I think Josh Heupel's screwed either way. And I'll even say it if he's great. I think Josh Heupel, if Joey Aguilar is great or good or serviceable, no matter what Tennessee does this year, it'll be a bad look for Josh Heupel. Because if Joey Aguilar comes out and Tennessee goes, 6-6, 5-7, everybody's going to be mad at the Nico thing. And like, one, he's already screwed because he went 6-6, 5-7, right? No matter what.
Yes.
But if they go 10-2, 11-1, and Joey Aguilar's great, Josh Heupel still looks bad. Because then you come back to the table and you say, well, wait a minute. If they went 10-2 or 11-1, why did you spend and invest so much on a quarterback like Nico Iamaleava in the first place? When you could have just gotten Joey Aguilar.
No.
That's
Caleb, if Joe Aguilar comes out and he's gangbusters, then it's easy to say, listen, everybody misses on prospects. Everybody misses on high school guys that they think are going to be superstars. The best coaches in the world have done that. So let me go ahead and tell you, if Joey Aguilar is first team All-SEC, then people are going to say, now we're talking extremes. This is not going to happen, okay? But if he's that good, people are going to say, wow, look at that Josh Heupel. He recruited the wrong quarterback. He admitted it. I bet he ran him off. And he went and got Joey Aguilar. That's the way it'll shake out. But he's not going to be that great. So we can go ahead and set that aside.
But we also would
say to you as well, Lindsay. What?
But then we would also say that you could say he recruited the wrong quarterback, ran him off, but then we would be like, that's the second time he's done that. Because every bit of success he had under Hendon Hooker, all we could ever say was, how did he pick Joe Milton over Hendon Hooker?
No, you're taking it too far. And your argument has some merit, but you're taking it way too far. Because if Joey Aguilar ends up being an All-SEC performer, that means Tennessee's making the college football playoff and maybe even advancing, and things are all copacetic. There's not going to be an issue there, but he's not going to be that great. Lindsay said the show should have 80,000 subscribers minimum. But yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. And Derek, nice enough to say happy Father's Day to Travis Henry over and over. But here's what's likely going to happen. They're going to get a quarterback that played about like Nico last year, who was 6th, 7th, 8th rating throughout the season in the SEC as far as quarterback rating. That's about what they're going to get. He was a little higher towards the end of the season. They may get Joe Milton, who was middle of the pack as well. But at the end of the day, you have to look at Joey Aguilar as being that type of quarterback, and that's about what I believe he'll be. Now, if he's that, now I will be willing to back your point. Then I think a lot of people are going to say, why did you put that much into Nico? And if any quarterback can run this thing, why are you spending $2 million on a quarterback? That's something that you pointed out before. Do you want to spend $2 million on one player, or do you want to spend $250,000 on 8 different players? That, I think, is the new direction they're going to go. Now, if he falls on his face, we all know that it didn't work out. So today's tough question is, Josh Heupel criticized either way? Possibly, because everybody's criticized nowadays. But today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Today's tough question. Boom. You heard that. Now take it. The Dave Hooker Show with Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones.
All right, Dylan, I think, agrees with you. He says it just makes people look twice at Heupel. Now it says a lot that his best quarterback was a Pruitt transfer, and the guy that was supposed to be his prodigy was a complete bust and ran for the hills. That is Nico. Caleb, that's right up your point, so I'll let you address that.
I mean, Dylan hit the nail on the head. He's absolutely right. And even going before that, I've tracked Josh Heupel's history with quarterbacks ever since he got fired at Oklahoma and went to Utah State. His entire rise as an offensive mind on his way to Tennessee was dealing with quarterbacks that he didn't want. He didn't sign Drew Lock when he went to Missouri. He inherited Drew Lock. Then he goes to UCF to become the head coach. He inherits Mackenzie Milton. Now, yes, he did recruit Dylan Gabriel, to his credit. That's the one player he recruited that he signed that he had success with. But he tried to start Brandon Wimbush, a Notre Dame transfer, over Gabriel the first year Gabriel was there in 2019, and that was a bust. So Josh Heupel has such a long track record to this point of success with quarterbacks he didn't go after, and not a lot of success with quarterbacks he did go after, that it does. Now, you could say, yes, he did go after, he technically went after Joey Aguilar. That was the guy he wanted after Nico transferred to UCLA. But I don't know where you stand on this, Dave. I think Joey Aguilar fell into his lap more than he scouted Joey Aguilar.
Yes, I agree with that. If let's just say, for instance, if Nico Iamaleava transfers to Oregon State, you probably don't get Joey Aguilar, right?
Right, exactly.
He just happened to go to. I mean, you have to remember, nobody transfers in that spring transfer, especially not quarterbacks. So,
Nobody.
I mean, it's not like Joey Aguilar had dozens of offers that he could go jump on board. I mean, he needed the place that needed the quarterback, and Tennessee needed the quarterback because Nico was taking his spot. So, Lindsay says Aguilar is serviceable. If he's great, Tennessee will go 11-1. Aguilar's ceiling is unknown, makes the season super exciting. I agree, it's very exciting. Now, my question is, what happens? I mean, this is the ultimate disaster scenario. Nico has a fantastic season. Joey Aguilar is average to below average or doesn't start, and Jake Merklinger does. If that's the scenario, then everybody has said that Josh Heupel gets a pass this season because of the quarterback situation. If Nico goes out there and he's one of the best quarterbacks in that conference, he doesn't get a pass. You've got to ask yourself what went wrong. And I'll tell you who else doesn't get a pass is Danny White doesn't get a pass. Danny White doesn't get a pass for whoever he put in charge of negotiating these contracts, or whoever was in charge of negotiating contracts. Or I know that the university wasn't supposed to be involved, but don't tell me for a second they weren't when you're talking about multi-millions of dollars. I'm sure in some shape, form, or fashion they were involved, or it's just a goofball system. And maybe it was. Maybe that's why they came in with legislation. But I don't think anybody gets a pass if Nico plays well for UCLA and Tennessee gets average quarterback play. Today's tough question. Let's put it on the message board. Is it up on the message board already, Caleb?
No, I will put it up now.
Is there a situation? What situation does Josh Heupel look good? And is it Joey Aguilar plays well, and Joey Aguilar is average, or neither? That plays to yours specifically. I know I've veered off path a little bit. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
Great point on the message board. Lindsay says, I think most coaches would have spent on Nico what Heupel did. He looks amazing on film. It was Manning, Arch Manning, that was ranked higher than Nico by most services. But I don't know how much money they took. They don't need the money. They probably picked the right spot. And knowing the Manning family, I think they do a lot of things that are orchestrated, and they do a lot of things that are best for the Mannings, and I don't blame them. One of the things I don't think they do is go for more money. So I could easily see them saying, if Steve Sarkisian came to them and said, listen, I can give him $5 million a year if you want, but I'd rather give him $1 million and spend more money elsewhere. I could see that. So let's take that out of the equation. How many coaches out there would have spent $2 million a year under the former, or we've already changed, but under the former format, how many coaches would have spent that type of money if they had it? I would go with the lion's share, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. I would go with the lion's share. I mean, for a quarterback like Nico specifically, you're talking about. I mean,
let's just talk Nico. Yeah, I mean, essentially, he was the number 1 rated quarterback in that class that you could buy. You couldn't buy Arch Manning.
No, you could not buy Arch Manning. And I do think most would, particularly with if they're system coaches, because I think you and I are kind of in the mindset that Arch Manning probably is the better NFL quarterback, but Nico was the better quarterback for certain systems, right? Where he could put up big numbers because he had such a beautiful deep ball.
I'm going to differ with you there, buddy. I think with that accuracy, now I think he was hesitant and he didn't read well. We learned that later, but just looking at him as a prospect, I'm trying to, take my judgment back a little bit. With that accuracy, I think he would have been good for Bill Walsh's West Coast system. But in retrospect, he has a hesitancy to him in college ball that scares me.
Right, that makes you more of a system player, because to be a pro-style quarterback, you gotta know you gotta be quick with your decision making. That's like the number 1 rule.
Agreed, but I didn't know that going in, I guess is what I'm telling you.
Yeah, I didn't either, to be fair. Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with you overall. You probably will, but at the same time, my issue with this has been that I never thought Heupel should, because I think Heupel's system hasn't really been reflective of how good a quarterback is to this point. I've had to come around and accept that myself. I thought before last year Heupel was a great offensive coach and Nico would take his offensive system to just another level. But now I'm coming around to, it doesn't really matter who the quarterback is as long as he can do basic things, and you should be focusing your talent elsewhere. And so that's where I'm landing on this.
I love this analogy by Derek. Derek said Hype wanted to see what he could do with a car that's barely street legal is all. Hope he makes better decisions going forward with the quarterback spot. Amen, brother. Listen, did you ever race cars when you were in high school?
I never raced.
Okay, well, I did.
I was a good kid.
Yeah, well, I wasn't. But moral of the story is I rarely lost a race, and I had a Volkswagen Golf. You know why I rarely lost a race? Because I didn't take my foot off the pedal. And I think that Josh Heupel, to use Derek's analogy, took his foot off the pedal. I don't think there were a lot of routes over the middle. I don't think there were a lot of drag and slant routes. I think he ran what he knew that Nico was comfortable with, and he wasn't willing to do other things. He better not do that with Joey Aguilar, and he better not do that going forward. He needs to open up the playbook just like he did with Hendon Hooker.
Oh, he does. But I think he will have to, because I think that again, with Joey Aguilar, you're not going to have that many over the top deep balls opportunities that you did with Nico. He doesn't have that type of deep ball. The deep balls will be 20 yards, not 40, basically. And I think more of the passes will be over the middle. Now, Heupel's going to limit it some, because his play calling and his scheme just doesn't call for that many aggressive passes over the middle. That's why quarterbacks don't turn the ball over in a system. That's why I always laugh. I mean, I'm sure you heard it, Dave. Like, you hear these people praise. You hear quarterbacks for Tennessee get praised for not turning the ball over, and I'm like, you're not really there to not turn the ball over. You're there to throw 18 touchdowns in a game.
True, but didn't you think that with all the tunnel screens they ran with Nico and all that sort of thing, that the pass play selection, the passing route selection was incredibly conservative?
Yeah, but I actually think it was just as conservative with Hendon Hooker 2 years ago. I think it just worked more. I think the player.
I bet you they ran that little wide receiver screen half as much with Hooker.
I think there weren't as many. First of all, a lot of those are options for the quarterback. There's a deep one, there's a deep route and the screen route, and they read the safety on which one to go with. So Nico was choosing that screen a lot of times, I think, over the deep route, because guys were covered.
Well, you don't choose a screen. Screen's called.
I think they have that. I think a lot of times quarterbacks in the Heupel system have the option.
The other receiver, nobody's going out. They're blocking. I mean, I don't think you have that option. A couple of other notes from the message board. I think ego is why Joey is there. I think Josh should have taken his lumps and rolled with what we had at the end of the day. What about that? Maybe that can we make that a topic for?
I mean, I'm of the mindset that he should have gone all in with Merklinger and McIntyre. Like I said, he should have started George McIntyre from the start.
George McIntyre. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go that far. General Ursus says Aguilar isn't as talented as Nico, but his deep outside ball is a strength that Nico lacked. That could be the key. That could ultimately be the key and what determines everything. And if that is, if he completes the deep ball at an 80% clip, dependent compared to Hendon Hooker, this is a totally different offense, right?
Yes. No, I agree. But again, we have to also take into account somewhat the receiver issues last year and the shell coverages that existed last year. The biggest problem with Nico, and we talk about Hendon Hooker versus Nico and how Hendon Hooker wasn't as hesitant. Nico had to be more willing to throw some jump balls than even Hendon Hooker had to have. Because with Hendon Hooker, let's be honest, 90% of the time the receiver was bare. No one was close to him, right, when he threw the ball. Whereas teams had adjusted last year. This is where Aguilar is a good fit. Aguilar's not afraid to throw a jump ball. If Chris Brazel's in one-on-one coverage on the outside, Aguilar's going to throw it up and say, hey, Chris, go make a play. And you need a lot more of that. You need a Team Martin Peerless Price situation. Dave, how many times did Team Martin just say, hey, Peerless, go make a play, and I'm just going to throw the ball up, and I want you to win this battle with your defensive back.
But I think you'd agree you'd rather those guys be running open, and Brew McCoy was not running open because he didn't have the speed that he once had. Who were the other two primary receivers they threw to last year?
Dante Thornton and Squirrel White both injured at different times.
I'll give you Dante Thornton is a guy that should have caught more jump balls, but as you mentioned, injured. Squirrel White to me is more of an underneath receiver. I mean, you don't want to live and die on jump balls unless you got Randy Moss.
No, but Chris Brazel can win those. And I think you're going to see a few more of those thrown this year because of a guy like Chris Brazel, who will be the other receiver on the outside. You got to let your receiver win some of those jump balls, particularly if they're physical. I mean, I go back to the Juwan Jennings years, and I think there were a lot of jump balls that Jared Garantano just trusted him to make sometimes for all of Garantano's faults otherwise.
Listen, Derek brings up a point that I've said for a 25-year career. And I don't know that he meant it, but he alluded to it. He said, Nico's not there cerebrally, period. Milton wasn't either. Timing beats speed. Technique beats power. Agreed. But the first part of what Derek said, Nico's not there cerebrally, period. I've said before that I don't think player X gets it mentally. But that doesn't mean I think he's dumb. Those are two completely different skill sets. You can know the encyclopedia from front to back, but it doesn't mean that you can quickly process and get the ball out. Would you agree those are two different skill sets?
Two totally different things. Different things.
But I'm going to draw a parallel, which I rarely do, off the field and on the field. I think he was so used to taking orders from his father mostly, but family and then agent, that he was gun shy. I think that carried over on the field.
Really? You think that actually carried over onto the field?
I really do. I think he was used to being second fiddle and kind of letting his talent take care of everything, and everything was fine. And then when things weren't fine, they weren't. That's just the way I see him and the way things shook out. Tennessee picks up a commitment. Luke Thompson from Franklin. What do you think of Luke Thompson, the athlete? Is this just a throwaway roster spot because of his family? Talk about his background, and then we'll get to 4 downs.
Yeah, so Luke Thompson is a 3-star on and unrated on different things. I'll get to his overall ratings, but he's an athlete / safety. So he is from Franklin, Tennessee, went to Franklin High School. He's in the 2026 recruiting class. He is the son of 2 Tennessee athletes and the grandson of another Tennessee athlete. All 3 played different sports. He commits to Tennessee a week after they picked up another defensive back, KJ McLean, out of New Jersey. Luke Thompson is the 10th commitment in their 2026 recruiting class. And let's just say there's questions about his actual ability. Is this a roster spot for a legacy kid because they want to keep the legacy family happy, or is this their part of their talent evaluation of underrated players? I have my thoughts. I'm going to get to them.
Okay, let's get into it right now. It's 4 Downs by our good friends at Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. They are on East Side Drive and Parkside Drive. They had a fantastic Father's Day celebration, but the savings continue and the fantastic service continues. I was so happy when I drove off the lot with my Jeep. And don't forget, they're East Tennessee's largest volume dealer, so they have what you want. Cooper Mays, what should people do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
All right, let's do it right now, Coop. Let's go to which down?
Coop here. First down.
All right, first down brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, and Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios is where we broadcast from. All right, so let's go ahead and get rolling with down number 1, and that is he's a 3-star on 247. On 3, he's a 3-star as well. Unrated on Rivals. What do you make of that, Caleb?
I make unrated on Rivals and unrated on ESPN. I'm making that at 6 feet, 175 pounds. I get the vibe that the only thing that's giving him ratings is that Tennessee was offering him and that Tennessee was interested. There is no signs that this guy is a recruit that there was a fight for. You're not hearing of any other schools that wanted him at Tennessee's level. The other ones that talked with him the most, by the way, are James Madison and Ohio and Miami of Ohio. So given his ratings, that's the biggest red flag to me of Tennessee just wasted a scholarship.
And is he a 2026 guy?
Yeah, 2026.
Okay. Are you aware if he has any other teammates that Tennessee might be interested in, or does he perhaps sell straw for a living?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Maybe he's one of those pine straw guys that can act as a consultant for 30 grand. Kevin Thompson was
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Kevin Thompson was a UT decathlete. Do you think that was a factor?
His father, Kevin Thompson, was a UT decathlete. Yes, I think that was a factor. And I think this is where they're taking a chance on his speed, because reportedly at a camp last year, he timed a 4.4140.
That's fast for a high school kid. And let me tell you why. Because running a 40 has nothing to do with football. As a matter of fact, it's about the most foreign thing in football in the world. Football, even a receiver, you oftentimes have a guy lined up on you. Let me give you a little insight. In the 40, when they train these guys and they go to all these training places, your first 2 steps are supposed to be so long that you almost fall down. I mean, that's how long they're supposed to be. That's how you run the fastest 40. It has nothing to do with your really inherent speed. It has nothing to do with how you play football. So at 4.41, that's really fast in high school, because you could project easily as a 4.3 guy once you go through all the training stuff. So that's really, really fast. That to me is a major green flag to go get him. His mother, Sharon Thompson, was a UT cross country star.
Not going to get third down from Coop on that?
Oh, sorry.
No,
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
I'm going to tell Cooper you don't like him anymore.
No,
okay, so third down. Yes, Sharon was a cross country athlete. Again, I think this adds to it. 2 parents, both again, father Kevin, a decathlon athlete for Tennessee, Sharon, a cross country athlete for Tennessee. This adds more to his speed talk, because he also set a high school record for his school with a 10.59 second 100-meter dash at the Class AAA track and field championships. This goes all to the staff is reportedly excited about his potential at safety, even though he saw himself as a wide receiver before he was approached. So I guess with the speed aspect of his parents and their Tennessee ties, maybe they're thinking they can get another Will Brooks in here. Even though his ratings are bad, his physicality is not there.
Yeah, but you don't offer a scholarship to Will Brooks. This also makes me think that Tennessee, absolutely right, Dylan. 40-yard dash is a track measurement, not a football measurement. Couldn't agree enough. But you don't go recruiting. You don't spend recruiting dollars, and you don't spend a scholarship out of the chute for Brooks. Will Brooks was a walk-on.
No, you don't. You don't. And this is where I'm getting it. I'm getting legacy vibes. And Dave, what if it's this? We don't have any proof of this. But there's a very big elephant in the room on fourth down on this.
Right.
Could there be ties could there be some booster ties that make Tennessee want to offer this kid?
There we go. Fourth down.
All-SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
All right. Fourth down is what, Caleb?
Could there be booster ties? I'm sorry, but fourth down is this. His grandfather, Joe Thompson, played wide receiver for the Vols from 1969 to 1971, led the team in receiving with over 500 yards and 70. That's the same 3 years Fulmer was there, which was they won an SEC title in 69. They won 11-1 and finished in the top 5 in 1970, won the Sugar Bowl. And then in 1971, they went 10-2. And his grandfather, Joe Thompson's biggest year was 1970, going over 500 yards. You wonder if just that's a legacy tie that makes them give him this offer. And again, I don't know how much money the family makes, and I'm not here to question it, but do they give donations to the university?
Yeah, that's a factor. I absolutely agree that that's a factor, but I think Travis, if we had a fifth down, brings up the biggest factor. Scholarships don't matter any longer. NIL. I assume the same rules are in place about recruiting, where you can say, here's all, did you know that this is all you can say about a young man in high school? You can say, we are recruiting that player. That's all you can say. You can't say he's really fast. You can't say anything, because to compliment him or to offer any sort of evaluation would be a way for a bigger school like Tennessee with lots of media coverage to provide an advantage. So they're not going, they can't do that. I'm assuming that's still the rule, surely to goodness. But what you can do is you can offer him an invite, and then he can say publicly he's committed, and it sounds like he's going to sign a scholarship. But in reality, his mom and pops have a booster that, or their company, whatever, is in Knoxville and says, I'll figure out a way to make it happen. Okay, and but he's not technically a scholarship player. See, I wondered all along if there was a player last year that I wondered all along if he was a scholarship player or not. And he was, but really, what does it matter anymore?
Okay, but there is one giant factor that changes this that I think you probably would have a point on.
Okay, well, before you get to that, let me remind you, Four Downs, brought to you by Ted Russell, Ford Lincoln, and they are East Tennessee's largest volume dealer. Telling you, you will be so pleased when you make a purchase at Ted Russell Ford or Ted Russell Lincoln. They have locations on Parkside Drive and Kingston Pike.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Employee pricing is here. You pay what we pay on all new Ford models. Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
With your point?
Okay, so my point is, what I was going to say was that the big elephant in the room on this is that there is no longer a scholarship limit.
Exactly.
There's a roster limit. So it's not the old way where you could just load up on walk-ons. Now, there have always been somewhat roster limits in conferences. For those who want to know the biggest cause of the downfall in Nebraska football, outside of steroids not being part of the program anymore, the other fall was that once the Big 12 was formed in 96, they put roster limits in place. So the last national title in Nebraska was 97. And Nebraska used to have they had, this story, Dave, they had 85 scholarship guys, but then they had 300 walk-ons at the same time that were all just took part of the conditioning program.
And maybe 10% of those guys would grow into scholarship status. But if not, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. So that's how they built a program. That's not a thing anymore. But roster limits do still matter. And they're now going to be more enforced because the scholarship limits are not going to be enforced anymore. And with that in mind, I just think you got to be careful when you offer these type of kids. Now, I do. Because you can't just do a throwaway wasted roster spot anymore.
Yeah. It's for enough cash you can. Because you're only going to play, I mean, you're only going to play 45 guys, 50, maybe 50 guys in a season. You're not going to play 115. You're not even going to play 85, which is the old scholarship limit. I think you've got some room for some of these guys if you want to. I mean, listen, you and I are football guys, but we don't know the administration side of it as well. We don't know the amount of money that they need to bring in to have a competent program. So, if this guy comes in and his family and they pledges $10 million to the athletic department, well, that would be 5% of their budget. That's a significant amount of money.
Yes, and I that's true. Again, that's me speculating that they're doing that, though, to be fair. And so we don't know for sure if that's the case. I mean, we know, I'm sure you've covered, and maybe I'm wrong, Dave, you don't have to name any names, but I'm sure you've covered kids that got maybe even scholarships were at least allowed to walk onto the roster because they were the kids and boosters, right? For the program. That's not a new thing, is it?
Yes. No, I can name one specifically.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head. And I do think largely that he was the bag man too. I think that he was the guy that could easily funnel money to prospects from boosters. And that was a pretty clean way of doing it. And it worked pretty well. You know why?
Why?
You didn't hear about it. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios. Stay tuned. Coming up on the program, Caleb, what do we got coming next?
We're going to talk a little bit about which Vols are going to be all SEC this year.
All right, I like that. I think there very well might be some that we will discuss. Stay tuned with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
And here we go.
guess it was a huge waste of time, like bringing a married guy to Vegas.
Then there's this guy, the Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Scotty says, Dave, why are you so negative? Who do you think was a good UT coach? I think Philip Fulmer was a good UT coach. I think Johnny Majors was a good UT coach. Who should UT go after next for a coach? I don't think I've said anybody. Huh?
No, we just been asking.
Yeah, I mean, last week we had the discussion because it came up with ESPN. What if Oklahoma and Josh Heupel work things out? Because Brent Venables is not the answer. Listen, there are 3 things that have to happen for Josh Heupel to go to Oklahoma, one of which I feel certain is going to happen. Brent Venables is not going to work out. Josh Heupel is going to have to do even better than he's done. I think he's going to have to make the college football playoff at least another time, maybe even advance to go back to Oklahoma. We don't know that that's going to happen, although I think it will because I think he's a good coach. And then the other thing is they have to rebuild that bridge, which I don't believe that that's going to happen. So if you're asking me, Josh Heupel will be the head coach at Tennessee as long as he wants to.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I mean, there's a lot of ways this has to go around. I don't think there's any one. Let's talk about Josh Heupel's stability. It's going to take a lot for Danny White to want to move on to Josh Heupel because that was his guy. I mean, Dave, you know this. Athletic directors are thoroughly invested in the people they pick. They don't want to be proven wrong. So it would take a lot for Danny White to admit he was wrong with Josh Heupel. The only one who had the type of guts to do that was Jeremy Foley, who, to his credit, as you know, at Florida, Jeremy Foley hired Ron Zook, and 3 years later was like, all right, I screwed that one up. I'm sorry, guys. And went and got Urban Meyer.
General Ursa said, Dave, all this Oklahoma talk made me have the dream the other night. Heupel left for OU. Guys, I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't. I mean, I could see, okay, Unsung says, this is a great point. South Carolina fans say Oklahoma will go after Beamer before Heupel.
Oh, and then Tennessee's going to lose Heupel to South Carolina. They got to be really worried.
That's not going to happen. Oh, goodness. And then Lindsay says, Mark Stoops will become head coach at OU before Heupel. I believe this. When they have meetings, we call it the bus list. If your head coach gets hit by a bus, who do you go after? I don't think Josh Heupel, Caleb, is even on their top 5 because of the trade relationship.
Okay.
Like if it were to happen tomorrow, if Brent Venables, God bless him, I don't want this to happen, were to get hit by a bus, I don't believe that tomorrow they would even think that they had a shot at Josh Heupel, and they probably try to make a splashier hire because it's a lot like when Tennessee hired Jeremy Pruitt, even though Brent Venables is a better head coach than Jeremy Pruitt. You kind of got stuck a little bit, didn't you? With Venables?
Yeah, and there's another layer to this too. It also, we talk about does your production outweigh your off-field issues, and so 2022 they might have, but Josh Heupel now, here's what, maybe they see him as a good enough coach to hire, but you know what they don't see him as good enough for? They don't see him a good enough coach to cut all ties with their legendary Bob Stoops for. Because that's a PR move you have to make that's going to be really tough. You will have to publicly split with Bob Stoops and say, hey, man, we don't want you around the program anymore. You'll have to remove the head coach emeritus title from him because doesn't he have that title at Oklahoma? I think he does. Like, you'll have to, like...
They love him. I know that.
Yeah, you will have to completely remove him from campus. And if Josh Heupel's winning championships, I think that's easy. I think you do it because you think about the program. But if Josh Heupel's 10-3, 9-4, maybe making the playoff every other year and then getting bounced out in the first round in a blowout, you're not going to sit there and cut ties with one of your most beloved figures on behalf of that?
No, I don't think so. All right, here we go. And I'm going to go ahead and apologize just on the front end. I'm having trouble getting into my email for some reason. So if there's a little bit of herky jerkiness, I want to go ahead and apologize. It's usually Caleb's fault, but not.
Wait, what?
What? It's not accurate?
This day in Tennessee sports history.
It's cool, baby. It's cool.
Now you know, and knowing is half the battle. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Off the Hook Sports.
All right, Caleb, this day in Tennessee sports history. What do you got?
On this day, back in 1951, Tennessee baseball won a doubleheader in the College World Series against Utah and USC to advance to the College World Series national title game, which they lost to Oklahoma 3-2.
Interesting. It is funny how Knoxville is a big baseball town, and more from, I would say, like the high school level, but it just goes insane-o. Like, businesses close down when Tennessee's in a, let's say, 1 o'clock first pitch College World Series game. But when Tennessee's out of it, boy, that thing just goes away.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this, and it's not today's tough question. Which of, and I know we don't know all the non-revenue sports, if you can name the crew chief, coach, whatever it would be called, then you win an award. But what of all the programs other than the baseball program, which one do you have the highest expectations for in the near future?
Women's basketball. I firmly believe in what Kim Caldwell's building. You get to the Sweet 16 your first year and you have the #1 recruiting class coming in. I don't know how you can't think women's basketball at this point.
No, I agree. I could easily see, and let's look at the most optimistic scenario. I could easily see Josh Heupel finding the right chemistry like he did in 2022, winning a championship, because I still think they could have potentially won a championship in 2022 had it not been for the Hendon Hooker injury, and that whole team deflated in Columbia. I could see him winning the championship, but I could see Kim Caldwell winning too. Oh, and under the most optimistic scenario. The most pessimistic scenario, I think she's a perennial NCAA tournament coach, makes it to the Final Four a couple of times in her career, and Josh Heupel gets fired. That would be the most pessimistic scenario. And I'm leaning towards the optimistic part.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm probably,
and that's a lot to unpack. I understand.
Yeah, that's a topic. Let's save this. This is a good topic to talk about on its own, honestly.
Yeah. Write it down. No. All right, let's go to Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heat and Air Conditioning. We love this because we get to talk some football. So last year, obviously, Dylan Sampson led a handful of All-SEC players. Cooper Mays, our own Cooper Mays as well, was one of those. And Tennessee was well represented on the All-SEC team last year. Now, we didn't think Dylan Sampson would be the guy. And if you can pull up the ones from last year, I'd appreciate that. But we didn't think Dylan Sampson would be an All-SEC player. He turned out to be the SEC Offensive Player of the Year. We thought that Cooper Mays would be an All-SEC player. I don't think that surprised anyone at all. And who are the other ones, Caleb, if you can pull those up? Because I'm curious who you think might be All-SEC this year, and it'll be Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heat and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Other companies will tell you you need a whole new unit, and this is the time of the year when it gets hot, and those units have little kinks in them. A lot of times, man, City Heating and Air Conditioning will come to you and say, you just need this part, and you're good to go. Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning.
Where do you stand? Hot or cold? Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Integrity matters. 50 years in East Tennessee. cityheatandair.com. On Off the Hook Sports.
So who are the All-SEC players from last year, Caleb?
So the 4 All-SEC players for Tennessee last year were Dylan Sampson, Cooper Mays, James Pierce, Jermod McCoy, and only one of those players is back.
Yeah, and only one of those players going into last year was a surprise. And just 4, that's just simply not good enough. So let's go to Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Let's lead it with Jermod McCoy. Hot means you think they will be an All-SEC player by the end of the year, not preseason. Jermod McCoy might be at preseason, but he's going to be injured, which is odd to me. But let's start with Jermod McCoy. Hot or cold? He'll be an All-SEC player, and feel free to vote into the message board, and we'll get to those. Go ahead, Caleb.
I'm cold on him because he's because of the first month. I just don't think I think he'll get back to 100%, but I think there will I think the early impressions will be such that people will have trouble putting him on the All-SEC team this year at the end of the year.
Yep, I'm cold on him as well. So I think he'll end up in November being one of the best cornerbacks in the league, but he's going to be judged on the entire season. Miles Kitselman.
That's hot.
Same issue. I think Miles Kitselman will still be really good for Tennessee, but I think they're not going to find it. I think Josh Heupel won't find it worth it to try to force him out there when he's banged up in September when he's got Ethan Davis to play. So I think Ethan Davis will take a lot of those touches in September.
Ethan Davis will be a factor, but it's a soft tissue injury with the pectoral muscle of Miles Kitselman. I'm not really worried at all. I think he's an All-SEC player. As a matter of fact, on this list, he's probably number 1 for me. Boo Carter.
Hell yeah.
I'm ready for Caleb to show up with a Boo Carter jersey.
Yes, Boo Carter. He is going to be a return specialist, a defensive back, and a wide receiver. I think he'll make it as a return specialist. I think that's where you'll see him be a star. I think he's going to have a couple of really, really nice punt returns, and I actually think he will be first team All-SEC punt returner this year.
That's hot.
I hesitate to say it because I'm afraid he's going to be splitting time in a lot of different places, and that could affect his play as a defensive back and as a slot receiver. But I'll give you, if he didn't return punts, I'm not with you. I don't think he's going to be an All-SEC player on offense or defense. Goodness, I hope I'm not getting the hiccups. But I do think that he will be an All-SEC player as a punt returner. All right, Mike Matthews.
I just want to point out you used the Paris Hilton reference, and as we all know, Kim Kardashian was Paris Hilton's assistant before she blew up. There's going to be a Kardashian try to date Boo Carter at the end of the year. He's going to be too good for their show.
Oh,
he's going to be that big of a star.
Oh my goodness! All right, Mike Matthews.
Yes, again. I'm so high on Mike Matthews.
I'll go with you on Mike Matthews because somebody's got to catch the football. He's the most talented guy, and guys in year 2 usually have an impact. There's every reason to think that he will be that guy. Braylon Staley.
There's the potential, but I'm going to say no for 2 reasons. He's going to be the main slot guy. One, I think only one receiver in this system usually gobbles up a lot of the stats based on how defenses play coverage on a year-to-year basis. So I already picked Mike Matthews to be that guy. So I don't think Braylon Staley will get enough touches. On top of that, as we just talked about, to keep Boo Carter happy, they're not going to play Braylon Staley in the slot every drive. It's going to be every other drive.
Yeah, that, and I think they'll play him every drive. Why don't you think that
because they're going to put Boo Carter in every other drive in the slot.
Oh yeah, good. All right. All right. Well, no, I don't think he's an All-SEC player. Chris Brazzell, the second junior, senior, Esquire the third. Here are my thoughts on Brazzell. You probably know because I've talked about him so much. Who is the receiver opposite Michael Irvin?
Alvin Harper.
Okay. When Alvin Harper went to the Tampa Bay Bucks and got his pinky cut off, they still won another Super Bowl. Who was the receiver opposite of Alvin Harper? I'm sorry, of Michael Irvin.
After Alvin Harper?
Yes.
I'm not sure. Who was it?
Who was the receiver opposite of Jerry Rice?
Dwight Clark, right?
No. That wasn't either. He would have been like 45 at the time. So the point being, you don't usually know who the second receiver is. So I know they pick more than one receiver on the All-SEC team. It's just as explosive as I think Brazzell will be. And I will go on record that I think he has 10 catches for over 40 yards. I'll go ahead and go that far. I think he has 10 catches for over 40 yards. But I don't think you get noticed most of the time. Now, if he gets 10, quite possibly. But short of that, I think you're going to go with somebody else's number one receiver. You see what I'm saying? So you'll have 2 number one receivers on the team, whereas I think Brazel will do everything that's asked.
Yeah, no,
go ahead.
Brazel's the Ramel Keaton on this year's team from 2022.
Well, I actually think he's going to be like. I agree with your analogy. I think he's going to be significantly better, though.
Okay, that's fair. But I guess what I'm saying is, it's funny you brought up Alvin Harper. See, Dante Thornton struck me as more of an Alvin Harper because let's bring this up. There's two types of number 2 receivers. There's the elite speedster that just runs track star routes, right? Which is what Alvin Harper was, or Dante Thornton. And the other side is there's the possession receiver where they are just amazing at winning jump balls and they catch everything. The problem is your number 2 receiver. The reason they're your number 2 receiver is they usually can't do both. And Chris Brazel is the latter. He's not going to be a speed burner, but he is going to win one-on-one battles and be a great possession guy.
Yep, great. A couple of comments. People are a bit all over the board on Brazel. I understand that. Lindsey, though, I think hit the nail on the head. Brazel was the happiest fall wide receiver when Aguilar came in. He lives for the jump ball, something Nico would never do. And David, you're right. It was John Taylor. He was the other receiver opposite Jerry Rice. Very good. I'm not sure that John Taylor wouldn't have been a superstar on his own, but he was incredible. Okay. David Sanders Jr., ain't happening. You're not going to be a freshman offensive tackle in the SEC and be all SEC. Not going to happen.
Really? Because Trey Smith was. Well, he was guard, to be fair, but still, Trey Smith was a freshman offensive lineman who was all SEC.
Exactly. He was a guard.
I believe, David, you sometimes get some rare guys. I think every now and then you get a rare commodity. And I believe that David Sanders is that rare commodity who will be an all-SEC starting tackle his first year.
Okay. All right. Lance Hurd at left tackle.
No, I think Lance Hurd will be fine this year. I just think there's a couple of better tackles in the SEC this year that are just like generational, particularly that one at LSU. And so I think that's why.
I was evaluating Lance Hurd recently. There are one of two things happening. Number one, either he was really hesitant at times, and this could be it, and that's fine. And he was a first-year player, and I get it. I understand it. I respect that. Or he has average feet. And if he has average feet, there's going to be a glass ceiling of how good he can be. So I can't go that far. Now I'm going to throw one that might surprise some people, a couple that will surprise some people. Peyton Lewis.
That's hot.
I think Peyton Lewis is going to be really.
Yeah, no, I think Peyton Lewis is going to be all SEC too. Now, will he be first team? If he's not first team, Dave, here's the biggest reason. It's because the passing offense returns this year and they get the bulk of their yards through the air. So Peyton Lewis just doesn't have the chance to get that many yards. But I think at the very least, he's going to be second team all SEC this year.
Yeah, but you're saying that with an unproven wide receiver core and an even more unproven quarterback.
Well, guess what? People are unproven until they're proven.
That's very insightful.
I mean, that
reminds me of this morning when somebody at the gym says, "It is what it is." Like, I hate that.
Everybody's unproven until they're proven.
It is what it is.
Well,
of course it is what it is. That's why it is what it is.
Everybody's unproven until they're proven.
Or they're just not proven at all. Arian Carter, hands down.
That's hot. That's hot. That's hot.
He is going to be a star. Absolute star. They did some things with him last year that I thought were questionable in terms of how much he dropped into coverage. I think he's going to be a little bit more free roaming. Actually, he wasn't as good last year as I thought he would be. I think he is going to be very, very, very good.
I think Arian Carter is going to be amazing. I mean, am I crazy, Dave, to say that like Arian Carter could be Tennessee's best linebacker since Kevin Burnett? I guess Gerard Mayo too.
Yeah, throw Mayo in there. I think of anybody else. No, I don't think that's crazy.
Could he reach that level? I'm not putting him on Al Wilson's level. I mean, Al Wilson is a standard. You should never ever put anybody on that standard.
No, I was like that dude. Did you hear about that guy that went to the Giants and asked, "Is it okay if I have the number 56?"
Oh, really?
The answer is hell no.
No.
I mean, you're asking, I mean, seriously, and I know you're a little bit young to remember really LT, but he was the best defensive player to ever play the game, period, in discussion. If anybody disagrees, I'll give you my address. We can wrestle in the backyard. Because it's just a fact. They would play 10 on 11 and let him do whatever he wanted to.
No, I agree with you on that. I mean, I've learned a lot about LT over the years, and I mean,
don't do crack.
Well, and also, I wish your 56 wasn't just the number he chose, because that's the age difference he likes between him and the girls that he's. Never mind. Okay, sorry.
I don't know, but I don't know. Maybe that's what he was paying for the amount of drugs. I don't know. But listen, there's part of me that thinks that nobody should wear 56 on any team. Like, it should be one of those numbers you retire everywhere. Like,
you can't retire that number given his behavior off the field. You can't
agreed. But like, I even look at I look at the number 23 in the NBA, and it kind of bothers me a little bit. I'm like, nobody should be able to wear that number anymore. Is that weird of me?
No, because LeBron tried to advocate for the number to be retired permanently and switch his own number to 6.
But don't believe LeBron. LeBron is all about making himself look better. He didn't believe that. He just thought he'd throw that out there.
Well, then he said, if I'm not going to wear it, nobody should wear it. That's what he said.
Did he really say that?
Yes, but then he went back to wearing number 23 when he went back to Cleveland. So this was when he went to Miami and he switched his jersey number to 6.
I've tried to be so open-minded about that dude. I don't know about you, but the more I talk about him, the more I dislike him.
I mean, he's annoying, but like I it's also just he's a victim of the social media age. So I'm like, he's still one of the greatest players of all time.
I'm not arguing with that.
I mean, I think
he likes to promote himself. T. Scott Jones will join us a little bit later. We're going to discuss this NIL Go. It'll be bank on it. And that's brought to you by Commercial Bank. Also, coming up on the program. First, I have to remind you, and this is very important, that, again, when it comes to fantastic customer service in your HVAC unit, there's nothing like City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
There's your pair.
All right, a couple of other comments from the message board that I wanted to get to. You guys are doing a great job today on the message board. I actually absolutely appreciate it. Braun's outfit at the Diddy party. Did you go to the Diddy parties?
A lot of people went to the Diddy parties. Okay.
Whoa, Derek's saying that Reggie White was better overall in all time. Derek, you're one of my favorite posters, but you're totally wrong, and I gotta completely disagree.
A couple quick ones, real quick, to run through, because a couple of other names are on this list. Joshua Josephs, are you hot or cold on him being an All-SEC player?
Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss Josh?
Yes.
That's hot.
Yeah, I'm hot on him.
I'm cold on him. I think Joshua Josephs only looked good playing opposite James Pierce last year, and I think he will not be a number 1 edge rusher. And then I just wanted to end with anybody else that I missed. And someone mentioned Colton Hood.
Time out. Who was scared?
I didn't say scared.
Who was scared of James Pierce?
Oh, are you kidding? You had James Pierce was drawing 2 and 3 guys every single time when he was playing off the edge. James Pierce was getting double and triple teamed. There was a bigger focus on James Pierce than there was on John Henderson in 2001 last year from offensive linemen. So I'm sorry. I disagree with you on that. And then if we're going to say, some people are asking anybody else. I think my underdog, Dave, is Jordan Ross coming out of the woodwork. Superstar.
Good underdog. I'll take my underdog as Ricky Gibson III, Junior Esquire.
Ricky Gibson III. You're going to be like the real RG3.
Yeah. Love it when you lose your phone and you can hear it going off somewhere. The show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, Banks and Jones. Can you hear that?
I can hear it, Dave.
Where's my phone? Oh, there it is. I found it. All right, good news. All right, the show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. We're going to dive into this NIL Go. It sounds like an after-school special, does it not? Like Nancy Reagan tells you, just say no, and then the G.I. Joe now you know commercial goes.
You ever heard the Never. I'm sorry, but it's
Oh,
funny that
Lindsay with another one that should have been on there. Jackson Moy.
that's
Jackson
a good
Moy,
underdog. Yeah.
He'll be an All-SEC player before Jordan Ross. I'll go ahead and tell you that.
I just want to say that Nancy Reagan is famous for just saying no, but she climbed the Hollywood ladder allegedly by always saying yes.
I don't know about that, but
it's. I mean, there's a rumor about that.
What she should be famous for is running the country the last 4 years because Adam.
Adam with the comment.
Adam, this is my phone right here. Come on. That's not true. Oh my goodness.
Well, as Scotty says, we were talking about Ross exploding, and Dave's just,
By the way, so this comedian talked about the other day, and that it was on one of those morning shows, and the morning show's interviewing one of those glass blowers on the sideline. And the guy's, blowing glass, and it's really bad for you. Did you know that? It's bad for your lungs. It could take like 10 years off your life. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
And so they said, what about that? It takes 10 years off your life. Isn't that scary for you? And he goes, no, it's important for my art. What kind of things do you blow there? He said, well, mostly bongs and dildos.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vols collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
All-SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
Who? What are you doing?
And here we go. Guess it was a huge waste of time, like bringing a married guy to Vegas.
Then there's this guy, the Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Sorry for that off-color joke. Did anybody think that was funny? Hopefully you thought it was funny and not offensive. Welcome back to the program. Scotty, no, I'm not talking about them. My goodness, Scotty. We're not breaking them down.
Oh, Lord.
New advertiser is? No, we're not doing. Coming up, T. Scott Jones of Banks and Jones will join us here in a little bit. No, it wasn't Jimmy Himes calling. T. Scott Jones here. So we're going to be visiting with him. Seems to be a common theme on YouTube. I didn't know that. All right. So welcome back to the program. We'll talk the the NIL Go, as that's the new name for it. And T. Scott Jones will join us here in a second. So look forward to that. Also, gotten a little off track today. I feel like we're missing something. Caleb, are we on topic here? Have we missed anything?
A couple of, well, we were having a little too much fun, but we got we're going to talk to T. Scott Jones, and then we also have Karen Weekly being a Karen about
being a Karen. What is? I don't understand what that meaning that actually means. Can you tell me what that actually means?
A Karen is it's basically used to describe a woman, typically middle-aged and white, who is kind of acting as if they have a special right or advantage. They're a little bit demanding, kind of like you're walking in the park and someone's like tells you how those type of middle-aged women that don't mind their own business. How about that?
Okay. Well, I mean, seems like that's every reporter's a Karen.
I never thought about that, but you are right.
All right. It's time for Stat of the Day. Stat of the Day is right now, and it's brought to you by our fantastic friends at Newbert Collision Center. For nearly 50 years, Newbert Collision Center has been East Tennessee's best choice for quality repair work and fantastic customer service. Here we go.
Stat of the day. They never lie. Or do they? Stat of the day. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Off the Hook Sports.
All right, Caleb Calhoun, what is our stat of the day?
There are 2 teams this year that play 4 teams to have made the college football playoff last year. Both of those teams play Tennessee.
Okay, say it again.
There are 2 teams this year who have 4 teams on their schedule that made the college football playoff last year. Both of those teams play Tennessee.
Okay, who are
they? Syracuse and Mississippi State. Syracuse has to play. Syracuse and Mississippi State both have to play 4 teams that made the CFP last year, and both of them played Tennessee. Syracuse has to play Clemson, Tennessee, SMU, and Notre Dame. Mississippi State has to play Arizona State, Tennessee, Texas, and Georgia.
Interesting. What do you make of Tennessee's schedule as a whole?
I think it is top heavy to a degree of they have 3 really, really, really brutal games, and then they have a bunch of patsies. And the problem is it's going to skew their schedule that the patsies aren't where they need to be. And with that, going 9-3 won't be good enough to get them into the college football playoff. They're going to have to steal one against Alabama, Georgia, or Florida.
Well, and out of that group, who are they most likely to steal one?
I mean, I would have to say Florida, but I mean, in order, I'm going to go Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. I think Alabama is their least likely win, honestly.
I would still have to say Georgia.
You could at least say has a quarterback issue and questions about their quarterback play, and Tennessee plays them early. So I guess that's where I'm landing on that.
Do you like the fact that Georgia's higher up in the schedule?
I think this year, if I'm Tennessee, I do. In other years, I wouldn't say so, but if I'm Tennessee this year, I love that they're higher up in the schedule because if I'm Tennessee, I could get them before they put everything together and play better and where they're, because I think November talent wins out more than September.
Gotcha. Special guest joined now by T. Scott Jones of Banks & Jones. Mr. Jones, how are you, sir?
Hey, cooking with gas, so to speak. Glad to see you fellas. Y'all doing okay today?
Doing fantastic. We appreciate you making the time, and I need you. I need your help because this whole trying to legislate marketing dollars that I can spend with a player seems very odd to me. Let's dive into this NIL Go. What's your initial reaction to it?
Well, I mean, obviously the legislature is trying to solve a problem and in turn benefit the university and the student athletes. So when you specifically try to tailor legislation to accomplish a goal, not necessarily a public policy, a lot of times you have issues because there are things that you don't think of that come up, and sort of the idiosyncrasies of dealing in this sort of brave new world. I mean, we've now been talking about it for what, 2 years or so. And I mean, it's every time we turn the corner, there's something new relative to what's going on in the NIL space. And so, you've got the circumstance now under the new law that basically Tennessee schools can now be directly involved in facilitating the NIL deals for their athletes. You no longer have this sort of, if you will, gray area where you've got folks that are actually dealing with part of that. And so it's going to be interesting how it all shakes out.
Okay.
Sorry.
Real quick. My curiosity is this. So when we worked with Cooper Mays and Jacob Warren, I just ran down their phone numbers, called them. It was super simple. If I had to jump through a bunch of hoops to make those things happen, it's going to kind of turn me off. And I wonder if in some ways, whether they mean to or not, this could impede the athlete's ability to make NIL revenue.
That's an interesting point, Dave. I mean, obviously, anytime, when we're dealing with a school getting involved and you have administration and it just kind of just morphs into something bigger and bigger and bigger, instead of just having a couple of folks involved as far as dealing with it, it becomes laborious. So I don't know. It'll be interesting, how efficiently they run the system and what they do. I mean, part of it was to provide some legal transparency and some protection for the schools and the staff when participating in NIL activities. But,
Oh, we lost you, T. Scott Jones.
For a second. See if we can bring him back on. T. Scott Jones, nice enough to join us to talk about the NIL Go venture. What do you think of that take, Caleb?
You there?
Yep.
Oh, there you are. There you are. Sorry.
We went kind of mute.
There you are. We got you. If you can kind of start all over with that answer.
Guys.
Can you hear us, T. Scott? We're here.
We got you.
We got you.
Work on that computer connection, as I'm sure we can figure it out. But what is kind of your take on that, Caleb, in terms of just making it more complicated on the front end? Could actually limit some opportunities for some of these prospects. So let's see if we can bring T. Scott Jones in there. Oh, we're going to Quattro screen. We're going to take that one away. Oh, Caleb.
There we go.
We got it. There you go. All right, we got you, T. Scott. So
I can't hear y'all.
Oh, you can't hear us? Oh. Wonder what happened on there. Mic check 1 2. All right, let's see if we can get that worked out. We definitely had it working in the beginning. Caleb, what did you change?
What did I change?
Time to put you on suspension there. All right.
I can't hear anything.
Okay, let's see if we can get T. Scott hooked back up, because I do want to get into this and discuss that. But I'm just curious on the front end, what you think of the impedance that could come because advertisers don't want to work with these guys and I have to jump through a bunch of hoops.
Well, I think there's going to be lawsuits from this. I mean, think about the level of discretion this opens. NIL Go is going to allow a third party to determine if something's a legitimate NIL deal or not. And I'm like, who gets to determine that, whether or not it's an NIL deal or a pay for play? Can you hear us now, T. Scott?
I can hear you now. I'll tell you.
Let's just start all over. All right. So, T. Scott, what is your take on this NIL Go, just from surface, and then we'll dig into it?
Well, I mean, on its broad surface, it's intended to provide some protection for the university and for the staff and folks when participating in these NIL activities. Whether or not it does or not is going to be, something to be kind of examined as we progress along. Obviously, arranging for meetings for the athletes, reviewing contracts, and offering guidance, that's to provide some protection. I mean, we got to remember, some of these kids are coming out of school, 18 years old. I mean, that being said, I don't make the best of decisions at 58. God forbid. I don't know what I'd have done at 18 if I had that kind of money at my disposal. But that being said, I mean, I think the whole thing is for protection for the athletes and also for the school, review the contracts. And then also we're going to see the expectations, I think, heightened. You know, it's no longer going to be, hey, we're going to sign an NIL deal and you kind of show up if you want to show up. The athlete's going to actually have to adhere to the contract. I mean, if you pay a man or a woman to perform certain obligations under the contract, appear at public appearances, things of that nature, you're going to be somewhat distressed if you are spending that kind of money and, you know, they blow it off. I mean, so it's going to be a indoctrination into what I consider to be big boy, big girl world.
T. Scott Jones, I want to ask you on another level of the NIL Go. I think what gives me concerned about it is I've learned, I didn't study law, but I have learned the phrase tough cases make bad law. And NIL Go, it seems like, okay, you're going to have a third party make an arbitrary decision on whether every single NIL deal is truly a pay for play or an honest advertising business arrangement. That's a lot of discretion, isn't it? For some people.
That's a whole lot of discretion. And I mean, you know, obviously, as you can well imagine, anytime there's that kind of discretion, it is sort of want for abuse. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. But then how do we do it? Otherwise, in that, you know, the schools are effectively going to be self-policing to a certain extent. And we've seen sort of NCAA involvement. That didn't work out real well for them. So it is going to be interesting. It's going to be kind of the wild, wild west. And collectively, they're going to have to end up, I think what you're going to see is almost collective type bargaining agreements like you've seen in Major League Baseball and in football, caps, things of that nature. Because otherwise, I mean, you know, we've talked about it on a couple of the other segments we had. I mean, who's going to be our first $10 million athlete? And it's coming. I mean, I think we crest it in the next 2 years.
I wouldn't be surprised if we crested and we don't know about it.
Right.
I mean, I know the Manning family is not out. They're not out for money. They want to be successful in football, but that name carries a lot of weight, and Texas has a lot of money.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, the reality of it is, you know, if an athlete has a finite window in which they're able to perform at a certain level, why shouldn't they get compensated or rewarded for it? So that was the argument when we dealt with the NCAA lawsuit brought by Scamatti and Tennessee. So it is interesting how it's going to be. But, you know, the legal protections, I think, are primarily there for the schools and the staff when dealing with this so that you don't have a bunch of just superfluous litigation, because otherwise it's just going to be a big mire of continuing litigation.
So, T. Scott Jones, how soon are we to, from what I talked about, a lawsuit of a player enters an NIL deal with the school, and it's a pretty lucrative deal. This NIL Go comes in and says, nope, that's not an advertising deal. That's pay for play. So we're going to strike this down. And then that player's like, well, I'm suing the hell out of this NIL Go then. Who are you to say that I can't enter this deal? Basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to have to be so, I guess, patently obvious on its face. I mean, you know, ones that are, I consider gray area ones, I think they're going to have to let those sail on by. But, you know, on the ones that are just so clearly pay for play, and I mean, really, what defines pay for play? I mean, you know, how much is your name, image, and likeness worth? I mean, that being said, we all know there's different values on things. And I mean, you know, if you're the GOAT, you know, perhaps you demand a higher price. I mean, it is a brave new world.
It is. And I'm also curious if this stuff becomes public as it has before. I mean, we knew about Nico. I don't think that caused any issues among his teammates, but it certainly could if one guy's getting $5 million in endorsements and another guy's getting $50 in endorsements. I mean, how concerned are you about that if you're Coach T. Scott Jones?
You know, obviously you want to have continuity and good camaraderie on the team. And I can see that, you know, there can be some discontent that's going to be out there. The other part of it is, you know, we're talking about this not being pay for play. We're talking about NIL. But that being said, what about these, you know, we see it all the time, first round failures in the NFL. I know we're not talking about the same thing, but somebody, that's the rock star and they get the wonderful NIL deal and, they're a 6-cylinder Mustang. I mean, they look sporty on the outside, but they just don't have a lot of power under the hood and they're not able to perform. I mean, what do we do when they get there and they flop on their face? And, how long is somebody going to pay somebody, if you will, a premium, because you're expecting a premium athlete to endorse your products or services? And if they turn out to be less than stellar or less than a premium, or perhaps they have a issue of moral turpitude or a bad decision. So think about that. That's going to be in those contracts too. I mean, all of those we're going to explore, right? If I pay name, image, and likeness, Caleb, sort of my hero. I want to pay Caleb for his name, image, and likeness. Going to endorse me, side by side. But then for whatever reason, Caleb has a issue. I mean, do I get refunded part of my money? I mean, think about it on all those morality clauses that we see in contracts. And I don't think anybody's thought about that, but I've represented innumerable student athletes that have made some really questionable decisions. Thank you, Lord, that they were eventually dismissed or acquitted for their bad decisions. But that being said, what are we going to do when somebody pays somebody a lot of money and then the first game of the season, they go down there and they rob the bread box or they get caught in a DUI and hit somebody? I mean, those are all things we start thinking about possibilities that can occur. Those are all going to have to be factored into these contracts.
Well, and I'll take it another step further. I mean, it would be one thing if somebody did something bad on an individual basis and you cut him. But I can't even remember the guy's name, but he was a defensive tackle. And he was heading into, I believe, his 3rd year. And he was selling as much pot as he was making defensive tackle. So, and at the time that was very illegal. It's changed now. But the point was, he would have been breaking laws while he was an endorsed athlete. It wasn't just this one moment where you can cut from him. Do you get a refund on that? That's a great point.
Well, and the reality of getting a refund, what do you think the chances of that money being held? I mean, I both know it. It's going through excrement through a goose. I mean, we talk about, the circumstances in getting these athletes and folks to control their money. But, when they get that kind of money, unless they've got a financial planner or somebody that's really going to put it back. I mean, how many times have we seen that ESPN stuff after the applause? So now are we going to say after the collegiate applause, i.e. nothing's left? I mean, there's got to be something put back. I mean, almost like the child actors, so to speak. And I get it because they're adults, but child actors and the Screen Actors Guild, they put money back and they preserve it for these kids because, again, they've only got that finite window. I mean, you're only young and cute for so long. You only have talent for so long.
Yeah, I'm coming up upon the end of that window. It's
Well, T. Scott Jones, I thought about this, but basically what we're talking about, let's call it what it is. The stipulations in the contract that are now with this third party and the NIL stuff, this is to protect boosters and business leaders across the different schools from themselves, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Because in reality, like, one business leader would like to say, well, I'd like to put these stipulations in this contract at Tennessee, but, at Ohio State, they're not putting any stipulations. So the player's going to choose Ohio State. That's what they're doing here, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're trying to level the playing field. I mean, remember what I said at the very beginning before we kind of the technical difficulty. I mean, the legislature is trying to solve problems that are befalling the university and their, if you will, recruitment and attraction of athletes. So that we have, quote unquote, the most progressive and modern NIL structure in the country. I mean, obviously, there's a reason folks want to play for winners, and they want to play for places not only that they can exploit the situation financially, but also that they can make the best use of their talents to hopefully go to the next level.
Great point. Anything else from you, Caleb? I think that pretty much wraps it up on my end. It sounds like to me that T. Scott, it sounds like to me that this is something they're going to try to enforce, but really sounds a lot like window dressing. I mean, I feel like I could jump through the proper hoops, given a little bit of guidance, and have Got X be my representation. It just doesn't seem like it has a lot of teeth. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're kind of hitting the nail on the head. I mean, we'll see kind of how sharp those teeth are and whether or not they're just gums or if they've actually got some meat to them. So, I mean, like I said, we've seen it evolve rapidly over the past, 2 or 3 years. So we've got a lot of changes in store.
Yeah, we did. Tell us about what you do, and if people need your fantastic representation, how to get in touch with you.
Well, I tell you what, Dave and Caleb, obviously I'm a trial lawyer. I go to court every day, just got back in. They can reach me at 865-546-2141. We try lawsuits. We do what the others dare not to do. So we're actually down there and doing the yeoman's work and putting in the hours. So hopefully if we can help somebody with their legal needs or they need even just a question answered, just tell them to reach out to us. 865-546-2141, banksandjones.com.
All right, buddy. Have a blessed day. Appreciate you.
See ya. Be good, guys.
T. Scott Jones, Banks and Jones. Stay tuned with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. The show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Give me 2 minutes, then coming up, Karen being Karen, as Caleb says. In 2 minutes, Karen being a Karen. 2 minutes off the explore.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Employee pricing is here. You pay what we pay on all new Ford models. Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vols collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
There's your fair. Here, first down.
My board is all messed up, Caleb. I'm having a Monday of all Mondays. Wait, that rejoin somebody. I can't find the rejoin. What's going on? There we go.
Frank, like the name, but serious or something. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun, represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
So what did you glean from T. Scott's conversation? It just sounds like to me that
what I gleaned is that this third party thing is just not going to work. There's going to be multiple lawsuits around it, and it's just going to it's going to be more and more a bad look. This is a house settlement that was made independent of the courts, and there are still federal laws that the House has not bothered to overturn. Congress hasn't bothered to overturn, and until you overturn them or reform them or update them in some way, you can't really regulate NIL deals.
No, nor should you be able to. These are grown adults.
Yeah. If the businesses want to throw a bunch of money at a player and not get a return on their investment, that's their right.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. Did anybody? Okay, well, let me throw this at you. I want to make it the poll question. Does the NCAA need more or less negotiations or the same? Because I haven't had one person, Caleb, that's come up to me and has said, you know what? I feel like the NCAA needs more regulation. I miss the days in which Chick-fil-A bags and Albert Means getting $250,000, this, that, whatever. I'm not talking about breaking laws. Like, I mean, obviously, when three nincompoops hold up the Pilot store on the Strip, I mean, there are laws. But I just don't know that anybody has said to themselves, this deregulation of payments to players, i.e. NIL, is terrible for the sport. Has anybody said that? I mean, people have a problem with the transfer portal. Those are two different things, right?
Yeah, I've seen complaints about NIL though. I've seen people complain about NIL and say that it's ruining college athletics or whatever. It's not.
How many of those people are under 60?
I mean, that's a good question. You're right. I think there are some, but I've said this in the past. Fans of anything like to complain, but they never have a solution for how it would be better. So, like, fans may say,
I think they're cruising along pretty good. Now, we're going to get into tampering here in a second. I've got a real problem with that, and I've got a problem with the transfer portal. I've got a problem with it because it gets in the way, but I don't have a problem with it in terms of it's wrong. I mean, let's face it. I mean, if you're holding up the Pilot store, I mean, that's wrong. Okay? I mean, that's morally wrong, correct?
Correct.
But is there anything morally wrong? Maybe against the rules or the previous rules. But is there anything wrong with, I mean, there's nothing morally wrong with paying a player other than, I guess, you sign your name to the dotted line and you essentially, you need to live up to your word. I mean, I get that, and they do have to do that, but those guys probably don't even read the whole scholarship.
No, they don't. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I think some people like the illusion that players committed to their university because they just love their school. And like, no, players committed to your school for their future. Period. End of story. They committed. It wasn't, I mean, very few players committed to your school because they just grew up fans of your school the way you did. They don't think the same way about your school that you do. Sorry, they don't.
Now, it's just befuddling to me in a lot of different ways, Caleb, that you have this situation in which I think we're going back to what we had in a different form. I think we're going back to, let's look at it like this. So, part of the reason that Paul Bear Bryant was successful is there were no scholarship limitations, right?
Correct.
I mean, there are a lot of reasons, but I mean, that was one of them. So he had like 145 players on his team. So they limited scholarships. So I'm sure at some point they had to have NCAA administrators go check out and see how many players each school had on their practice field, right?
Yep.
To enforce that. Okay, and then you have the push where they're amateur athletes and they can't receive payments, which may have been before or after, I don't know. But they couldn't even have jobs in the off season. So you had to address that. And then they could have jobs. And then you started really pushing at one point with the Linda Benzema. Okay, even before that, the money thing came up again. You had to enforce that. You had people getting suspended. I will say this. I think most fans would rather talk about football than what's happening off. I think you'd agree with that, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So let's take the next step. The Linda Benzel-Myers thing. I don't know how many remember that, but that was a teacher at the University of Tennessee. She claimed that the institutions were taking advantage of athletes by funneling them through urban studies at the time, which was considered a nothing degree. You couldn't get a job on it, but it's easy. So then you get into all of those cracking down on academic progress, for instance. You had that issue. And so you crack down on that. And then NIL it comes into play. You let up, people can pay people. And what's happening now? I think you're in a good spot, except for the transfer portal. Take away the spring transfer portal, and I am perfectly fine. Perfectly fine with everything that's going on. But when you add all these rules, which they're doing, that's what we're going to be talking about again. We're going to be talking about Joe Blow took a bunch of money and didn't get it okayed. And now he's suspended for the first 2 games, and the university is facing a probation. We're going right back there. Do you realize that? We're doing a big U-turn.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that happening. I got no issues with even the spring transfer portal. I mean, I think that, look, these rules are going to be rules. Nobody's going to get suspended because there's going to be, like I said with T. Scott Jones, there's going to be a lawsuit. It's going to get struck down. That's what's going to happen. It's going to get struck down. I'm guaranteeing you guys, NIL Go won't even last a year.
I don't know about that. I hope you're right, but I don't know about that. What the H?
I've never worked hard on anything. What a cool life.
For real? The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer. Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
All right, what the H is this? What's Karen Weekly got to say? She's upset about the transfer portal, and I don't blame her. I wouldn't want people calling my athletes and asking them, hey, how would you like to start for us? You're a backup for them, or how would you like a little bit more coin? I don't know how much is really going to softball players anyway, but I don't like the tampering thing. I got a problem with it. I got a problem with the second transfer portal, particularly in football. Caleb, does Karen Weekly have a point in that? Let me go ahead and tell you. If you think for a second that nobody contacted Nico Iamaleava before that Ohio State game, you are insane. I guarantee you, absolutely no question about it. He was contacted by other schools, told he wasn't being used right, told that he could make more money in, I don't know, let's say LA, whether or not that's true. Tampering is, to me, a problem. However, here's the sad part about it. I think it's legal, and I don't think there's anything you can do with it about it. If somebody calls me or Caleb right now and wants to talk to us about another job, what are we supposed to say? No. Dave said I could, or Caleb said I could only discuss that in the first 2 weeks of January. So you have to call me back then. No, they're going to move forward and make their plans. So while morally, yes, I agree with everything that Karen said, the bottom line is it's just asinine.
Let's think about, okay, so just for those who don't know, the reason this was brought up by Karen Weekly was because this was not subtle, by the way. This happened, I mean, less than 24 hours after All-American Tennessee softball third basewoman Taylor Pinnell transferred to Texas Tech. The Red Raiders were runner-up in the Women's College World Series and have basically been emerging as a growing NIL force. They're openly bragging about it. They are just opening the NIL checkbook for softball, which that's their right. That's what they want to do. Karen Weekly is mad about that, but my thing is, again, you're right. Tampering, there's no way to stop it. And okay, I'm going to go here. What about coaches? You don't think coaches are talking to other schools when they're coaching a team if they're looking at a better school or a better opportunity? And I mean, and I don't want to go here, but we don't want to talk about, I mean, Karen Weekly might be the last person to complain about, inappropriate relationships with people. I'm just saying, She played for Ralph Weekly in the 80s as a player.
Yeah, but she married him.
But she did play for him. Wonder how that relationship started. Anyways, who cares if they're reaching out to your player? Because you would do the same thing, Karen, with another player. And also, if you were a coach and someone was offering you a bigger salary, you would go and take that salary. No one has ever not been tampered with that was a free agent, and you're always a free agent. How about this, Dave? I got a question with you in the NFL or NBA. Players on the last year of their contract in the middle of a season. You don't think they might be talking about another team that they might want to sign with in the offseason and say,
Well,
hey,
of course they are, but there is supposed to be tampering rules in professional league. Now, General Ursa said tampering is a problem that will always be. Not really. Here's the difference, General Ursa. When they took away that you had a city year, that's when it amped up. Because I'm looking at, if I'm UCLA, I'm looking at Nico. I'm like, that dude can help me August the 30th. So I'm excited about getting that dude. So, I mean, that to me is that's what changed everything, right? It wasn't really a problem before then. Caleb's take, and it's brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
All right, Caleb. I mean, how much did the sit-in a year change things? Immensely.
It did. It did. And again, it was a weird thing that only applied to players and didn't apply to coaches. No one ever told a coach if they transfer schools, they have to sit out a year, or if they take another job at another school.
And Lindsay pointed out that's what contracts are for. They absolutely are. And I don't know why the players, I understand the players have.
Timothy's pointing it out.
No, Adam was above.
Okay, sorry.
But I don't understand why the players have all the leverage. I understand they can play, other people can't. They're special. I get it. But why they have all the leverage going into this? For every Arch, there was a Nico. For every Nico, there was an Arch. Yet they have had all the leverage in this. Now, Timothy goes on to say coaches have contracts where there's where it's finite. I guess he's trying to say it's apples and oranges. It should be. And that's the way these contracts have to go. Now, what if you wrote into a contract, would this be legal, that you cannot transfer in your first 3 years? What if that was in Nico's contract?
Here's the thing. The market would fix itself, though, because guess what? There's going to be another school that won't put that in the contract. There's going to be another school which NIL boosters won't put in the contract if you do that. That would get out. Like, basically, the market of capitalism would then come into play. Also, where I think we're headed, and this is a real one, Dave, this is a crazy one. We're headed for buyouts with players. We're headed for, if a player goes to a school and there's an independent third party that offers them an NIL and a contract, and that player leaves early for another school, that player has to pay some of that money back in a buyout. If the third party terminates the relationship for whatever reason, they have to pay out the player in a buyout. You're about to enter an era of buyouts with athletes. But
okay, why would that? I'm not seeing that. Why would that happen? If I hire Bobby Joe athlete, and I say I'm going to pay you $100,000 a year to play football for me, and you leave the summer before your junior year, why would I have to pay you a buyout?
No, you'll put a stipulation in your contract about the buyout. You'll put a stipulation.
But why would you be deserved a buyout? I paid you $100,000 for your freshman year. I paid you $100,000 for your sophomore.
No, I'm saying the players.
Are you talking about if there's some sort of signing bonus?
No, I'm saying the players would have to pay the buyout back to the third party if they left early. That's what I'm saying is going to start happening. Now, here's where.
Well, no. I think that's already fixed. I think, well, at least in Knoxville, the program that we cover, I think that's fixed. I don't think anybody is going to stroke out a check for a Nico and give it all to him before he shows up on campus.
Let's ask this question then. Okay, because getting back to the tampering point, is tampering a bigger deal if there's not money involved, or is it a bigger deal if there's money involved? Because with Karen Weekly and the Tennessee softball program, I can't imagine that much money's being thrown around, right?
Oh, you mean NIL money or
NIL money? Yeah, NIL money.
no? I mean, they'll be lucky to have a sport in 10 years.
Yeah, so is tampering a bigger deal in that situation, or is it a bigger deal in football where money's being thrown around with tampering?
I guess I would say I don't see a buyout being any sort of situation you get hired away, because I'm going to pay you for the job that you did. I'm not going to pay you up front anymore. Now, just like you said, it could bear itself out, and you might have someone that ends up getting a big signing bonus, and then they have to pay some of it out. But man, if you're doing that, you're just dumb.
Yeah, but I'm asking, is tampering a bigger deal in a sport that's high revenue than it is in a non-revenue sport? Or do you think it's actually a bigger deal in a non-revenue sport because if money's not on the table, you would expect a little bit more loyalty?
I think I don't think it matters, not to sidestep your question, but I think what's going to happen is the money's going to be about equal across the board. So let's say for the top 25 programs that have somewhat equal, revenue, maybe that's the top 18, top 20, you make $200 million in overall revenue. That's your budget. I think you're going to see a quarterback get, throwing out numbers, okay? Quarterback get $500,000, running back get $250,000, offensive lineman get $150,000. I think they're going to quickly be slotted just by the free market society. So I'm not as worried about that. I think what you're going to see, and I've said this before, what you're going to see players do is you're going to see players make the decision off two things. Number one, are you getting me ready for the NFL? Eventually that's going to happen, because we're not going to be talking about game-changing money. Nobody's going to be like, Nico makes $6 million for a 3-year stopover, okay? We're not going to be talking about game-changing money for the most part. And number two, how much am I going to play? Those are going to be the two factors, because I believe the money is going to even itself out.
Okay, so then at that point, it is a bigger deal at the smaller non-revenue schools, because think about this. At the smaller non-revenue, or at the non-revenue sports, there's always going to be a gap between what the top 3 schools spend and everybody else, because there will be 2 to 3 schools that really want to have the best baseball program, right? That just think it's valuable. And then there's going to be schools like Tennessee, because Danny White's a marketing guy and thinks about the other budgets, like, I can't spend that much money on baseball. It doesn't make money. But Mississippi State's going to come around and be like, well, we're going to spend everything on baseball, and we're going to be the greatest baseball program ever. And all of a sudden, it becomes a huge... then tampering is a huge deal, isn't it, in college baseball or college softball?
And I hadn't thought about that, but...
Because everybody's going to spend on football.
If you're Mississippi State, is that the worst idea?
I think they're already doing it. That's what happened with softball here. Texas Tech is doing this with softball. They've decided we want to have like the Duke basketball, the dynasty of North Carolina soccer. We want to have that for softball here at Texas Tech. And I'm saying, and Mississippi State is reportedly doing that for baseball. Are we sure that like at that point, I'm with you. That's not the dumbest idea for some of these lesser schools in these programs that could have decent football programs, but like actually win championships in another sport. It's going to be a huge gap there. You're right. Football, the top 25 football programs, and I would actually venture to say, and I think you might agree with me, even the top 10 basketball programs, there's not going to be a gap in how much is spent.
Well, okay, you took me where I was going to go anyway. If I'm Duke and North Carolina, I'm putting it all in basketball. I'm going to have a $10 million Cooper flag. By the way, did you hear he made $32 million in his 1 year at Duke?
Really?
With endorsements and everything.
That's insane.
Okay, so you've got that, what, 30 million? Is it 20 or 30.5 million or 20.5 million?
20.5 million.
Okay, you got 20.5 million. Why not spend 5 million on one dude if you're Duke? You're not going to have a great football team. You're not going to compete at a high level. Why not just spend it all on basketball?
Why one dude? Why not just get the entire NBA lottery for the next year? Be like all 5 guys that are going to be going in the top 5, and then you'll have all the scouts. Here's the thing, and we saw this with Zion. If Duke and UNC spend all the money on the top NBA guys, then when they face each other or whenever they're playing, they're going to be a huge draw everywhere because everybody's going to want to scout them for the NBA.
Well, This show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. We broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. We see you weekdays at 10 a.m.